We are living in a new era, the deepest technological revolution in human history.
Hello, everybody. Honorable ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to Kigali. It's a wonderful place, and we'd like to say that we're happy to have you here in this second edition of MWC Kigali 2023. Thank you for joining us. Almost 23 years ago, I owned my first mobile phone. Before then, when you had a business meeting or meeting with friends for a rendezvous, you needed to know exactly where and when you were going to meet, and then hope for the best, knowing our African time culture. But connectivity has grown across Africa, and it has brought with it opportunities to bring a level of precision and certainty to the way we do life, unlocking new pathways for rapid economic growth, innovation, job creation, and access to the services that were unimaginable almost 2 decades ago. From fintech to healthcare, from education to manufacturing, digital marketing, visual arts, we are indeed witnessing the digitalization of everything. And mobile connectivity is transforming lives across the continent for millions and millions of Africans. Technology will continue to evolve, bringing with it even more opportunities for everyone to enjoy the benefits of a modern connected life, for societies and for businesses to thrive and innovate as we take charge to address some of the major global challenges that we face, such as the climate crisis. Today, we have with us a distinguished lineup of speakers with a wealth of knowledge and vast experience to share with us how we ought to move towards the digitalization of everything. Are you poised and ready to hear from them? It is my honor and privilege to invite to the stage Mats Granad, the Director General of the GSMA. Welcome, Mats.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was a great opening. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to MWC Kigali. It is just so exciting to be back. So thank you so much for joining us here today. So I thought we would do this a little bit different today than what we did last year. So if you could sort of warm up your right arm a bit and raise your hand if you used your phone this morning to check the news. Do we have anyone? Yeah, ooh, almost everyone. Okay, so maybe someone you contacted your families as well? I did that. Good. Anyone sending emails? Yep. Fantastic. Well, I can see some of you are sending emails right now. You better listen here. So isn't that just incredible? How this little device has completely changed the way that we do business. And it didn't exist, as Angela said, just a few decades ago. It has really changed our lives and connected us with the whole world. This year, we celebrate 50 years since the first mobile call was made. It was made by a man called Marty Cooper in New York. Now, it took a while for mobile to sort of take off around the globe, but here in Africa, some 10 years later, roughly 10 years later, it took off here in Africa as well. And you know, the big consulting firms, they predicted that this would be a tiny little niche industry, something for the very few and exclusive. Now, how desperately wrong they were. Today, our networks cover 95% of the world's population, 95% of the world's population, with some 5.4 billion unique customers. In Sub-Saharan Africa alone, almost 500 million subscribers, which will grow to roughly 700 million by 2030. Astonishing. Yes, over the past 50 years, our industry has truly changed the world, transforming the way we live, work, and interact with each other, and enabling a digital transformation on a scale never seen before. Today, we are living in the largest technological revolution in human history, 4 times bigger than that of the Industrial Revolution, and all with connectivity at the heart of it. As we now head towards the digitization of everything, now we have a duty as leaders to make sure that we're building a future where no one is left behind. But that will take some activities to achieve this. Well, of course, there are many answers to those activities. So this morning, I would like to focus on 3 of them. The usage gap. We need to accelerate our efforts in closing the gap. Number 2 is spectrum, accelerating the harmonization of the radio waves. And thirdly is the investments, accelerating the investments and finding the money to be able to invest. So let's start with the usage gap. Here in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have almost 500 million, or more exactly 480 million subscribers. Now that is great, but you know, that's only 43% of the population. And when it comes to mobile internet, it's even worse. It's only 25% of the customers that are using mobile internet. Now, this is something we just must change. So why is it that so many people are not using mobile internet? Well, you know, to dive into that is the fact that we have 2 different gaps here. The first gap is the coverage gap. And that is the number of people who live in areas where there is no coverage. They have just no way of connecting each other, connecting to mobile internet. Now, the good news is that here in Sub-Saharan Africa, that gap has reduced down to 15%. So there's only 15% of people living outside of areas that are not covered with mobile internet. But the second gap is the usage gap. Now, this number is the number of people that are covered by mobile internet, but they're not using it. And that's the highest in the world, with almost 60%. Now, that's 680 million people that are not using mobile internet for a variety of reasons. They could, but they're not using it. So why are they not using it? Well, according to our research, there are several, but maybe the 4 biggest ones is the affordability, and the affordability of devices is the critical one. Number 2 is digital literacy and skills. I don't know how to use this thing. And thirdly is, which I think personally is the biggest, is that there is very little relevant content in local language that makes me really want to use it. That's number 3. And number 4 is safety and security concerns. I've heard that there's all bad stuff happening on internet, so therefore I'm not letting myself or my family use it. So those are the 4 things we believe are the biggest barriers. Now, and of course, those living in rural areas and women are mostly affected. Now, the usage gap is one of the biggest challenges we as an industry are committed to overcome. But we cannot do this alone. We cannot solve this by ourselves. We need to work together across government, industries, private and public sectors to address these barriers to make sure that everyone can benefit from access to mobile internet. Rwanda has been an incredible leader in this space, and I look forward to hearing from His Excellency President Kagame later on today on the digital transformation taking place currently across the country. It's going to be really exciting. Now, another key element is to provide affordable connectivity, and that is the ample amount of harmonized spectrum. Now, this year is a critical year because we have something called the World Radio Communication Conference, or WRC, in Dubai. And the GSMA, we're working hard so that decisions made there will increase the amount of harmonized spectrum globally. We need this year's WRC to deliver three things: low-band spectrum to decrease the usage gap, the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum to harmonize to drive affordability, and then the 6 gigahertz band to pave the way for the crucial expansion of 5G. If we can achieve this, we have an opportunity to put mobile services into hands of millions across Africa and billions across the world. So it's a really important event happening in Dubai. Okay, thirdly is the investments. Is also really key to drive to accelerate the adoption. Earlier I mentioned that the coverage gap has decreased down to 15% here in Africa, and that is thanks to huge amounts of investments made by operators in building out their networks in the past couple of years. But you know, that doesn't come cheap. It's quite expensive. As 4G expands and 5G starts to take off, operators will need to keep investing in their networks. In the next 7 years, up to 2030, mobile operators in sub-Saharan Africa will spend $75 billion in capex to keep up with customer demands. Mobile data traffic in the region is forecasted to quadruple. That's 4x in the next 5 years. Huge. I find that absolutely astonishing. And we, the industry, we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for that huge demand increase. At the moment, there's 6 digital platforms generating half of the global traffic. Now, they have become the 4th largest economy in the world in terms of trillions of dollars. So we need a fair and proportionate contribution towards the cost of network infrastructure. We want to continue to invest in connectivity for the many, not just the very few. When we look to the future of 4G, it's going to be main focus in Africa over the next few years. But 5G is growing quickly too. By September this year, almost 30 operators in 16 markets had launched commercial 5G services in the region. And in 2030, 5G will contribute $11 billion to the economy in sub-Saharan Africa. So there is plenty of good growth for us. Now, as 5G matures, we need to create scalable, interoperable, and commercially viable solutions that will benefit operators, industries, consumers everywhere. At MWC in Barcelona this year, we launched something called the GSMA Open Gateway, a framework of common APIs that will bring universal access to operator networks, allowing developers and cloud service providers to improve and build new digital services and accelerate the development of immersive technologies. Quite exciting. Now, almost 240 mobile operators or network operators have already joined the Open Gateway bandwagon, including Airtel, MTN, Orange, and Vodafone. So momentum is growing really quickly. In February of this year, we had 8 proof of concepts. Then we had 23. And now we have the first commercial launch of network APIs. So we are very excited. And this is just the beginning. We will see so many more APIs being developed in coming years. Together, we have a chance to build a deeper ecosystem for innovation across industries, unlocking the value from 5G and bringing benefits of connectivity to everyone. The digital transformation story in Africa is only at the very beginning, and it is one to watch. with the youngest population in the world, driving momentum and driving growth. It is quite astonishing. The numbers I've shared with you today is based off current trends. But we have seen this time and time again, that exponential growth that can happen when technology really takes off. So I think we need to be very cautious about that. So take mobile money, for example. That was introduced here in Africa, some 16 years ago? And today there are over 280 million active mobile money accounts across the continent, generating some $830 billion in transaction per year. 830 billion. That is actually $26,000 per second, every second. That's quite remarkable. And over the weekend, the GSMA Innovation Fund hosted a boot camp with 17 startups, all with mobile-enabled solutions to address climate challenges and humanitarian actions. It was so good to see people with a vision for solving some of the biggest challenges they're facing the continent, and a business plan to execute that vision. So yes, the digital transformation accelerates across the continent, and it will bring endless opportunities to governments, businesses, and citizens. But to enable this, we must all stay focused on accelerating our efforts to close the usage gap, to ensure the availability of enough harmonized spectrum, and to invest together in building a more connected Africa for all. It's been 50 years since the first mobile call was made. And just look how far we have come, each of us here in this room, because of mobile. So today, when you send those emails, read the news, keep in touch with your family, take a moment and appreciate the journey we have been on, and the incredible work of our industry that has allowed us to get us to where we are today. And this week, let's listen and learn from each other. Let's build new relationships, and let's innovate for an inclusive, connected future for all. I don't know what the next 50 years will hold, but I do know it will be very exciting. I wish you all a very successful MWC Kigali, and I look forward to so many great conversations throughout this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mats. Our next distinguished speaker is Doreen Bogdan Martin, the Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Doreen.
Director General Mats Granyard of GSMA, honorable ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's an honor for me to join you here for MWC Kigali 2023, and to feel the energy, the excitement, as you just said, Mats, the passion and the commitment for Africa's digital transformation. And of course, it's wonderful to be back in Rwanda, a place that holds many memories for the ITU. It's here in this iconic conference center just over 1 year ago that the ITU member states adopted the Kigali Action Plan at the World Telecommunications Development Conference, chaired by the Honorable Minister Paula Ingabire. That action plan charted a course for digital development that closely aligns to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And it's during that conference that we launched the Partner to Connect Digital Coalition, a global multi-stakeholder effort to advance meaningful connectivity in the hardest to connect communities. At this historic launch, Partner to Connect secured more than 360 pledges worth some $18 billion. Now, 16 months later, we just celebrated our 800th pledge, bringing us closer to 32 billion and on our road to 100 billion by 2026. And Africa is at the very core of this effort. This gives us the kind of velocity needed to scale meaningful connectivity across the continent. As President Kagame said at our SDG digital event in New York just last month, this shows that we're taking steps in the right direction to build the digital capacity where it can have the greatest impact. And that's what I wanted to speak to you about this morning. And I have Matt's three things, three areas where I believe we can have the greatest impact on Africa's digital transformation. The first, I promise Matt's I didn't copy, but the first is actually the usage gap, no surprise, as Matt's just highlighted. Most of us who still don't use the mobile internet live in areas that are covered by mobile broadband, as Matt's has just elaborated, with the usage gap reaching close to 60% in sub-Saharan Africa. In Sierra Leone, I want to give this example, 80% of schools are actually covered by 3G or 4G, but less than 2% of schools that have this coverage are actually connected to the internet. That's the message that the country's Minister of Communications, Technology, and Innovation delivered to us last month in New York, where she stressed that connecting the schools could actually have the potential increase in GDP of 14%, which is unbelievable. That means that there's so much room for hope, especially when it comes to improving affordability. Lots to discuss today, I believe, on device issues. We'll hear more, I think, from Rwanda on that issue. And of course, digital skills, something Matt's also mentioned. And it's not an either or, we need both. We need to focus our efforts on everything that can make connectivity more meaningful. Of course, that also includes infrastructure. I saw it firsthand when I recently visited the Melkadida refugee camp in Ethiopia that borders Somalia. And that's why the ITU, UNHCR, and GSMA came together to launch a global pledge to connect all refugee camps and their hosting communities by 2030. And this brings me to my second area. Yes, spectrum and investment are critical, but I'm going to take a different second area, which is also critical, and that's in the space of partnerships. Bold, innovative partnerships like Partner to Connect can have a direct impact on the ground. And that's the case for this global call to action that GSMA, ITU, and UNHCR have launched to advance digital inclusion for forcibly displaced and their local hosting communities. That's also the case for the high-impact initiative on digital public infrastructure led by the ITU and UNDP that was launched during the General Assembly. DPI is the backbone of digital transformation with universal connectivity at its core. This initiative is going to support efforts in 100 countries by 2030, giving many African countries unprecedented agency over their own digital journeys. And the third point I want to raise, the third area, is sustainability. Universal connectivity and sustainable digital transformation go hand in hand, and they are at the bedrock of ITU's strategic priorities. And African nations are really showing the way here, in particular in the space of e-waste. Experiences in countries like Rwanda, for example, who's strengthening extended producer responsibility, providing, I think, quite an interesting approach for all countries to consider when building your e-waste management system. Africa's also showing the way in climate action. A strong message was recently sent by African leaders that gathered for the first African Climate Summit in Nairobi, calling for green investments and showing the world that Africa is ready to lead. with technology supporting economic development plans for climate-positive growth, with technology to propel Africa's economic growth and job creation, not only limiting emissions, but also aiding in global decarbonization efforts. And of course, technology to enhance early warning systems and climate information service. I'm very pleased that Africa has actually just launched its Early Warning for All initiative. That's a very important step to save lives and livelihoods in a continent that actually suffers disproportionately from climate change. And I'm certain that African delegates who will soon head to Dubai for the World Radio Communications Conference, can I get a show of hands? Who's going to WRC? I see a few. And of course, Mats has just elaborated how important that conference is. And I think we look to Africa as well, who is united in their approach for that conference to show the way. The outcomes of WRC can pave the way for new and more innovative ways to connect the continent, with so much of our common digital future resting on the use of frequency spectrum and associated satellite orbital slots. Ladies and gentlemen, closing the usage gap, building strong partnerships, bold partnerships, investing in sustainable digital transformation, those are the steps that we need to take now. And as Matt said, we need to do that together so that we can build an inclusive and sustainable digital future that will define the rest of the century that could be an Africa century. This comes at a time when we need to put the SDGs back on track and when Africa is moving towards its Agenda 2063. So let's embrace this opportunity. Let's unite our efforts. Let's ensure that digital lives up to its potential for everyone, everywhere, across this great continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doreen. Our next distinguished speaker is Jean Kaseya, the Director General of the Africa CDC. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Jean Kaseya. Who's next?
All of you.
Jean.
I'm not equipped like Matt. This is why I'm using this mic. If I was equipped like you, I would be there. Excellencies, ministers, ITU Secretary General Doreen, nice to meet you again. Dear Matt, colleagues, dear friends, it's a great honor for me to be here and to address you at the opening of the second African Health Tech Summit, jointly hosted by the Mobile World Congress Africa. I would like to first thank the co-host of this summit, the government of Rwanda, Smart Africa, and GSMA for their leadership in bringing us together for this important event. The question is, why I'm in Kigali today at this specific moment, while we have the World Health Summit in Berlin, while the world wanted to hear from Africa. Yesterday, I was talking with my friend and brother, Mark, the minister, the Federal Minister of Health of Germany. I said, Mark, I'm flying to Rwanda because we need to start to celebrate our success. I landed to Berlin to celebrate Professor Leke, who got an award. I want to celebrate the success of what we are doing in Africa. If I say, what is the world's first digital country? Some of you will give me some names, but let me answer it. Tuvalu. Tuvalu is 9 islands coming together. Why they are the first one in the world? Because they are responding to a specific question. What is this question? How to save life of our population that is living under water almost 80% of the time, and how to save our history. We are digitalizing not because we want to do it, but because we are responding to a specific need, to a specific question. And Rwanda is showing a clear leadership by responding to concrete questions, by pushing this agenda to respond to our needs. This is why I'm here in Rwanda. I'm so proud to spend this day with you colleagues to discuss that. As the Public Health Continental Organization, Africa CDC has embarked last year on what we call the new public health order. And 3 months ago, our governing board of Ministers of Health approved the new strategic plan 2023-2027, which identifies digital health as a critical enabler that will allow Africa to catch up with the lost ground in many areas of public health and get the continent ready for the new public health threat. As we discussed with Tedros, Dr. Tedros, my big brother leading WHO, the question is not if we'll have a next pandemic. The question is when we'll have the next pandemic. And we need this digital transformation agenda to be a reality now. Digital health systems have an invaluable role to play in strengthening primary health care and supporting the community health initiatives toward achieving universal health coverage. This summit is an opportunity for all of us to align on a shared vision and priorities to unlock the full potential of digital health in Africa. Early this year, in the same city of Rwanda, Kigali in Rwanda, we launched the African Union Digital Transformation Strategy for Health. This is what we call the Digital Transformation Agenda. Today, there is a renewed sense of urgency as Africa CDC commits to accelerate the implementation of these key initiatives, such as how to digitalize our primary health care, how to digitalize health for African women and youth. And we have to bring a number of young people here in Kigali, part of the youth movement of Africa CDC. How to create interoperability with a number of systems that we have in Africa. We need to see the Health Tech Summit being a platform to drive this strategic alignment, collaboration among stakeholders, and action to unlock the potential of digital health in Africa. We need to see a vibrant, let me welcome my brother, Sabine, I'm here. This is my brother, the Minister of Health, if they don't know you. Previously, Africa was known to pioneer innovations such as M-Pesa, that becomes a revolutionary financial inclusion tool in Africa. Today, I'm here to say that this is the digital health M-Pesa moment. We need the momentum for Africa. We are making story today in Kigali by pushing this agenda and by making our country ready for the next pandemic while we are building our systems. To conclude, I want to recognize our partners that made this summit possible. Mastercard Foundation, the Common Project, UNICEF, GIZ, ICVIA, Google Global Fund, and so many others. I want to thank them for the support they are providing to the continental vision that we have to transform Africa. I want all of us to join hands and to make it a reality in Africa. I thank you.
Shagun. Thank you so much, Jean. Our next distinguished speaker is Jerome Onik, Executive Vice President and CEO of Orange Middle East Africa. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Jerome.
Your Excellencies, Ministers, Excellency Secretary General of ITU, Mr. Director General of GSMA, dear Mats, esteemed delegates, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of Mobile World Congress Kigali for giving me this opportunity to talk about a subject that's deeply meaningful to me and which happens to be one of Orange's strong ambition, inclusion. Inclusion is above all a matter of people, and we at Orange consider connectivity, energy, and mobile money to be primary enablers of inclusion as they enable entrepreneurship and economic development. It is this vision that we strive to implement step by step every day for Africa. As you know, Africa has fully entered into the digital revolution, and Orange aims at being the reference partner for this major transformation in a safe and responsible manner for all. We are backing this ambition with a strong investment strategy, more than 1.2 billion euros this year for the continent, and we are making it a reality by complementing our core business as a telecom operator with a genuine multi-service offering that covers every aspect of people's lives in Africa. Our ultimate goal is a 100% connected Africa where, thanks to digital technology, each one of our fellow citizens, wherever they may be, even in the most isolated villages, can study, work, communicate, and manage their finances. So let me introduce you to Sebastian Kofi. Sebastian is a young Ivorian whose story is far from being an exception. His story is the perfect reflection of the commitment of our teams towards inclusion. Indeed, thanks to Orange Solar Kits and connectivity, Sebastian Kofi was able to realize his dream of becoming a hairdresser without to leave Divo, his village, located 3 driving hours from Abidjan. He improved his life by running his business from his cell phone and managed to increase his revenue from 200 CFA per day up to 10,000. This is the case of many individuals and many households without electricity who can now access clean, affordable, and safe energy thanks to solar kits provided by different players, not only by Orange. And indeed, access to energy is a prerequisite to bridge the digital gap, the usage gap. It is a prerequisite for modern economic activity, and Sebastian is a fine example of energy inclusion made possible by our Orange Energy Solutions, which have already been launched in 11 African countries, proving the robustness of his business model and providing thousands of Sebastians with access to affordable electricity. Entrepreneurs and startups are building upon FOS Energy Solutions to bring inclusion even further. As an example, we recently signed a partnership with the Coolbox company to enable small businesses and individuals to use a refrigerator whose electricity consumption is managed and paid from their cell phones. You can see a demonstration of this initiative in our booth today, and it will allow Sebastian and so many others to benefit from a reliable source of energy and develop their business. In addition to individuals, electricity network operators can also draw on our digital expertise to offer new ways of managing and supervising their operations, as well as their bidding process, thanks to the Orange Smart Energy Management platform we have developed. But our commitment to inclusion goes even further, and this is where mobile money comes in, playing a major role in the financial inclusion we offer to local population. Indeed, Sébastien, like our 80 million Orange Money customers, pays his bill directly from the Orange Money application, and in many African countries, mobile money is the primary means of financial inclusion and a major contributor to socio-economic development. In an African context where the informal economy still plays a central role, accounting for up to 86% of jobs and with 83% of borrowing carried out outside financial institutions, mobile money is the solution for banking the unbanked. It is a major change, from storing money anywhere to placing it securely in a mobile wallet, from which it can be sent to anyone, pay for groceries, pay for tax, school fees, and so on. Mobile money makes everyday transactions much more effortless, safer, and easy to proceed. And with this in mind, we have launched the Ocalm payment offer used by nearly 30,000 small retailers in Ivory Coast to receive their payments easily and instantly, as customers can simply pay by scanning the QR code or typing the merchant's phone number, which acts as a merchant code. We are now going even further and extending one of our recent offers, Orange Bank Africa Mobile Financial Services, launched in Ivory Coast in 2020. And for the past 3 years, this platform has enabled us to offer microloans and saving services to a large number of customers, today exceeding the symbolic milestone of 1 million customers. We will continue to roll out this offer as well as other innovation as a result of the evolution of the banking regulations. Mobile money is indeed a real source of inclusion, literally changing lives of small business owners and individuals alike, and for the better. But to support people like Sébastien for realizing their dream, we also have to train them in digital skills and capabilities. This is a main lever to reduce the usage gap Mats and Doreen highlighted this morning. So after Ivory Coast, I would like to take you to Senegal to meet Angie Enta Dabo. Perhaps her name rings a bell. Well, Angie is a vector of digital inclusion and an essential link in the virtuous cycle that Orange Middle East and Africa is striving to create. This young lady indeed develops social impact projects aimed at improving the digital skills of women who have dropped out of schools or who are looking for better employability. By learning how to use digital tools, they open up a whole new world of inclusion, whether financial, with solutions like Orange Money, or energy with Solar Kits. And this is why Angie created Digital Nisa, with the same commitment to inclusion that she benefited from at one of our Orange digital centers, where she developed a startup with other Odyssey alumni. This year, 2023, she won Orange prestigious Hello Women Award, which aims at promoting gender diversity in technical and digital professions. Like Digital Nisa, over 226 startups have been supported at our Orange digital centers. Indeed, digital training is undoubtedly one of the most strategic challenges Africa is facing, since 1 in 2 Africans is under the age of 20, and most of the future jobs of the continent will require digital capabilities. Our Orange digital centers are designed to help meet this challenge by training young people with or without diploma and boosting their employability. This concept of Orange Digital Center is unique. It brings together under one physical roof all programs supporting youth and entrepreneurship that are free and open to all, ranging from training on digital skills to startup support, startup acceleration, and the scaling of the most relevant ones thanks to our investment fund. The first Orange Digital Center was designed in Tunisia 12 years ago by a lady present in this room, Asma Enaifer. Hello, Asma. And then extended to all countries in Orange footprint, not only in Africa and the Middle East, but also in Europe. There are 16 Odysseys which have been opened in Africa, 13 of them in collaboration with the German cooperation, with whom we share the same ambition of supporting the acceleration of the digital transformation of the countries. To date, like NG, we are proud to say that we have reached 1 million beneficiaries. 40% of them are women. On October 18th, during this Mobile World Congress here in Kigali, we will be celebrating the 13th Orange Social Venture Prize, awarded to startups with social and environmental impact projects incubated in our Orange digital centers. Inclusion is at the heart of everything we do. It is one of the major pillars of our new Lead the Future strategic plan. Digital, financial, social, and energy inclusion are our main CSR commitments. We are convinced that the role of an African operator like Orange cannot be limited to purely economic contribution. Therefore, we have placed inclusion at the cornerstone of our strategy. We exist to connect the unconnected, and our added value lies in the inclusion we create through each one of our initiatives. So for Orange, and for me as well, the 21st century will be both digital and African. It will enable, I hope, many Sebastian and NGs to see their projects go from dream to reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Up next, we have another distinguished speaker. Please join me now in welcoming to the stage Segun Ogunsanya, Managing Director of Airtel Africa.
Good morning, ladies, gentlemen. I especially thank the government and people of Rwanda for the very warm welcome. We've been here since yesterday. Excellent event last night. I also welcome the ministers and the regulators from 14 countries where we operate in Africa, Airtel Africa, from Kenya to Rwanda to Tanzania, and all the other regulators from the 40 different countries in Africa. I'm going to be talking to you today about the problems in Africa, and now we're part of the solution, and the specific initiatives that my company is taking to help solve some of the challenges we have in Africa. I'm going to lead into how artificial intelligence can be used to solve some of the problems, and now we can also use intelligent connectivity. But let me start by describing where we are in Africa. 1.4 billion people in Africa, and many of them are very young, many. Almost half of the population is below 19 years. This is an opportunity, it's also a risk. If well harnessed, it can be the future of this continent. In terms of the spread of the population, equally split between those who live in villages and those who live in urban areas. This is also another opportunity and a challenge if you don't plan for those who want to migrate from rural areas into urban areas. It must be a planned migration, or it must make it easy for those who choose to stay back in rural areas to stay back. The next index is about how many of our population have access to smartphone. It's been proven by so many studies that for every 10 percentage point increase in digital mobile penetration, there's about 2% increase in GDP. It's about 2.4 in some parts of Africa. In Africa, we've got about 59% of our population who have access to smartphone. Skewed by those in North Africa, much higher percentage in North Africa, and also much higher in South Africa. If we exclude South Africa and North Africa, the figure is much lower for sub-Saharan Africa. And if you look at the opportunity to be part of the financial system, only 17% have access to a mobile wallet. I'm discounting the very few who have bank accounts. Because most of the folks in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, do not have access to bank accounts. So what are the problems we're trying to solve? And how can we use what we do as telecoms to really mitigate some of the negative impact that is affecting so many of our people. I'm supposed to talk about artificial intelligence and intelligent connectivity, but before this can happen, we must have a digital highway. Without a digital highway, there is nothing that can be bolted upon. So what I'm going to be talking about now will be how do we solve the major challenges preventing so many people in Africa from being part of the digital community, from being part of the financial community, and what is the role of a telco in creating access, in reducing the barriers to being part of the digital community. The earlier speakers, Matt and Doreen, spoken about the very wide gap between those who have access to internet and those who do not. And even those who have access to internet, those who don't use, either for many reasons, financial reasons, they can't afford it. But it's been proven again that we need to get as many people as possible into this digital franchise, into the financial franchise. And what we do as telecoms is to make it easier for a lot more people to enter the digital world. So our role, 3 clear opportunities for us to play. One is how do we bridge the divide between those who have a mobile phone, those who have access to internet, and those who do not. That's one clear act for us. The second one is how do you create financial inclusion? It's also been proven that, especially women in rural areas who don't have access to financial products, they are very disadvantaged, open to abuses, open to more poverty. But if you're able to give them access to financial products, we lift them out of poverty, we live them out of servitude, make it easier for them to really raise children and do other things that will contribute to the economy of the various communities. And the third piece is about access to the very device that can let you be part of that community, the smartphone. 3 things that we can do differently to create better access to smartphone. One is to make it affordable for tons and tons of people who don't have enough money in their wallet. And I must thank the government of Rwanda for what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we launched the most affordable 4G phone in Africa. For $20, we're giving out phones to a lot of people in this country. And for $1 a month, when I say $1 a month, everyone who is made a small deposit for this phone will be able to make unlimited phone calls in a month, unlimited SMS, and access to 1 gigabyte of data every day, meaning 30 gigabyte of data in a month. That's our commitment to Rwanda, and that's what we will do. We launched this program yesterday, collaboration between us, government of Rwanda, and a philanthropist who is also very, very keen to lift Africa into the digital world. So once again, our role is to allow the world to reach Africa and for Africa to reach the world. This can only be done through mobile connectivity, through internet connectivity, bringing us closer to a lot more people in the world. Now, what are the things that we can use artificial intelligence to support? I'm going to give a couple of examples, specifically what we've done. And the first one is around education. Education doesn't have to be within the 4 walls of a classroom. It's about teaching and imparting knowledge. And about 2 years ago, we signed a partnership with UNICEF. We're actually the single largest private sector supporter of UNICEF in Africa. I committed $57 million to UNICEF for a period of 5 years to support digital education in 13 countries in Africa. We started in Rwanda, we've done Nigeria, we've done Tanzania, and a couple of other countries. What are we doing? We're creating connectivity to schools in deprived areas, coaching the teachers how to use smartphones, how to use smart devices, and linking the children to the internet is actually awesome. I've visited a number of the schools. The impact on the children, the willingness to come to school, because they know they're going to have access to a mobile device, is just been exciting. We also look at how we can use artificial intelligence to encourage smart city in terms of giving control to traffic control, either making it easier for people to have access to water supply, to electricity supply. It's been amazing. A number of countries are piloting this in Africa, and we're supporting one in East Africa. When it comes to how we can use technology for identity, I mean, I came in from Dubai yesterday. I didn't encounter any human being. All I did was showed my face, scan, came in. Those are the things that we can enable, make it easier for people to focus on things that require human attention, while technology will take over things that do not require human attention. In terms of planning, I mentioned earlier that about half of the population of Africa, they live in rural areas, and half of them live in urban areas. How do we plan for this migration? What do we need to provide for people when we know a certain number are going to move from a particular area to another area? How do we create sufficient housing? How do we make sure there's sufficient water supply, electricity supply, crime control? All those things can be enabled by smart technology, enabled by artificial intelligence. The fourth one is around financial inclusion. How do we make it easier for so many people, men and women, to have access to loan products? By the sheer size of the information we have about everyone, in terms of your recharge frequency, the phone calls you're making, which you pay in your network, we're able to give a profile, and that profile can be used to actually give a credit score to some of the people who are not in the financial system. With this credit score, loans can be allocated, and in some of our countries where we give loans as little as $10, we find that the repayment is almost 95%. Poor folks pay back loans. Because they know if you give them $10 today, they pay it back. Next week, they get $20, they pay it back. It's a cycle. And it's been proven that those people at the low end of the cadre, they're actually more reliable when it comes to loans. They pay back. The challenge facing us, how do we create a profile that will make it easier for balance sheet providers to have a philosophy for lending to them? That can be enabled by big data, and by harnessing this data to give credit score to as many people as possible. In terms of smart metering as well, one of the major challenges we have is lack of access to the grid. There's not access to grid because the distribution companies don't make enough money to really reinvest in it as well. But by making it easier for customers to pay through smart metering, we're encouraging a cycle of people paying for what they consume and creating a large cash flow for those distribution companies to invest more in distribution and make it easier for a lot more people to have access to electricity. This is also being enabled by what I do, what most of my colleagues in this room do. And finally, around creating access to medical care. In Tanzania, we're working with a particular hospital whereby they put a small device under the bed of a patient. With this device, the vital statistics of the patients can be taken, the temperature, heart pressure. Many things can be taken, and it's actually transmitted to a central position where a nurse is seated. And this nurse is able to attend to a lot more patients because he or she doesn't have to physically stay in a particular ward. So we're enabling access to a lot more care by making it cheaper for a limited number of people to attend to a large number of patients. Once again, we got a lot of work to do in Africa to bridge that divide. Because all the things I've described, they're only possible if there's internet access. Without access, it's not possible. Whether we're talking about automated schools, we're talking about smart metering, or the medical care which I described, the foundation, the bridge is the digital highway, and that highway has to be done by a coalition of different partners. Telcos, government, NGOs, and even individuals have got a role to play. And I think we need to do it very, very quickly. We don't want to be left behind. Once again, thank you, and have a good afternoon.
The future is indeed here, the digitalization of everything. Thank you very much, Segun. Our next distinguished speaker is Ebenezer Asante, Senior Vice President of Markets for MTN Group. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ebenezer.
Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, and delegations of government present, members of the GSMA and ITU leadership, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First, let me start on a very personal note. Exactly 10 years ago, I had the privilege of working in this inspiring country as the CEO of MTN Rwanda Cell. Under the leadership and vision of His Excellency the President, the power of ICT as a catalyst for socio-economic change was brought to the fore. My paradigm of ICT for development was sharpened during the period in Rwanda. Next week, my organization will be launching our Global Appreciation Week. So please permit me to seize this opportunity ahead of time to express my deepest appreciation to the President and the people of Rwanda. Marakoze. Secondly, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to the GSMA and congratulate the GSMA for organizing this second Mobile World Congress in Africa. It's great to see many government officials, policymakers, regulators, tech suppliers, and industry top players and peers in the room today. For those of you who don't know us well, MTN, with our group president and CEO here, Mr. Ralph Mupita, has about 290 million subscribers in Africa and beyond where we operate. We are in 19 countries, majority of whom are in Africa. We believe that everyone deserves the benefit of modern connected life, and our 5-platform strategy is Ambition 2025, which I'm sure you can access it through the website for more details. We have more than 290 million subscribers, as I indicated, and we commit to investing $2 billion in CAPEX every year. Our quest to create shared value is constantly the reason why we continue to reduce coverage costs to communicate. MTN, as an Afro champion, strongly believe that the once popular and well-fashioned neoliberal approach to business alone will not flourish nor serve the best interests of a continent we have such significant and existential stake in. Business must respond to the needs of society sustainably and must complement nation-state effort in delivering real development for its long-term sustenance. This reinforces the new development paradigm Africa requires among states, enterprises, para-development agencies, such as multilateral organizations and CSOs. This, we believe, must set the axis in the plane of digitalization. When we at MTN talk about leading the digital solutions for Africa progress, we mean a new approach to business. In there lies the element of elegant partnership, which you heard earlier speakers mention, inclusivity, and shared value creation. Our social impact is significant. In 2022, we contributed some 9.1 billion in economic value-added terms. The theme for this keynote address is digitalization of everything. In this, we see the role of digitalization within the African continent aiding our search for long-term development solutions and creating opportunities at individual, enterprise, state, and societal levels. In all this, one mantra may serve as a reminder. Anything worth doing must not only be worth doing well, but smartly, with autonomous aid of data and digital solutions. Judging that Africa is coming from way behind, the need to double our pace to derive more mileage from digitalization of everything is very obvious. I am therefore using a simple framework only as a reminder so that we would know and remind ourselves that we need to do that twice the pace of the rest of the world. Twice here stands for digitalizing everything transactionally, digitalizing around work, digitalizing with information and data, digitalizing the very connectivity of people and machines, and also digitalizing our economies. Right from the mobile age, one theme stood out for Africa: leapfrogging the fixed connectivity to mobile. Fast forward to what we call the fourth industrial revolution today, and again, Africa has found its voice in taking a position, and that position is very clear, that we will not let this opportunity pass us by. The rhetoric is one thing, but the reality, informed by our assertive, concerted action, will bear the whole difference. Perhaps it's too early, or perhaps the jury is already out there. One thing is clear in my mind, though. For us to leapfrog in the digitalization of everything, we in Africa must not only be consumers, but also creators and suppliers of digital solutions. We must go beyond the base of the technology food chain to compete with merit at high-end value in technology knowledge and expertise economies. It would take a lot, but critical path may be education system to foster creativity and problem solving. There is a lot to say here, but in brief, let me add that as its core foundation, Africa must take mathematics education and creative problem solving more serious and to the highest level possible. That opens the door to scarce areas such as quantum physics, advanced computing, software engineering, digital economics, as well as dynamic interplay of liberal arts, creative arts, and science. Mathematics, indeed, sits at the center of all that. The digital skill gap on the continent is well known, and it's especially prevalent in the advanced skills such as artificial intelligence, scientific computing, and human-computer interactions. World Bank research shows that there will be around 230 million digital jobs in sub-Saharan Africa by 2030, just 7 years away. So we really need to prioritize this fast. At MTN, our flagship program is MTN Data Smart, and it is accessible in most of our markets. We appreciate the knowledge sharing with the GSMA to boost digital literacy, skills, and opportunities, and look forward to more of such collaborations with many more. It's interesting to note that the digital industries that are growing the fastest in Africa at the moment will include cloud and software as a service, delivery, online retail, digital arts, streaming, and gaming. Digitalization as a bridge between virtual and physical worlds is extending human-to-human connectivity into partnership with machines and non-mechanical elements as such. The outcomes of digitalization will include convenience, higher productivity, and improved efficiency, All these three are needed the most in Africa. It calls for stretching the exponential limits of things to the extent that collective human imagination and intelligence can command. Therefore, the potential of digitalization by default is limitless. There lies the need to balance being mindful of the ethics of digitalization. We in Africa must not only use digitalization to leapfrog development ladder, but also leapfrog the potential ills of digitalization with our strong social culture and warmth. Significant investment and research in cybersecurity, national security, and territorial integrity ring fencing, privacy governance are all in the right direction and encouraged. Further light must be shed on emerging areas such as socio-psycho impact of excessive digital use, cyber intoxication, addictions, bullying, toxic content management, and many more. More attention ought to be placed on digital ethics, just as we praise the magical elements of digitalization. The question remains, and how could we robustly leapfrog into digital opportunities and at the same time leapfrog out of the threat of digitalization of everything in future? We have defined Africa we want and deserve so clearly and cleverly. It is indeed becoming a cliche or even boring to repeat it, but just permit me to try one more time. The Africa we want is the Africa of progress, poverty-free, wealth creation. It is one with enhanced and inclusive human capital development. The obvious difference, however, is not our rhetorics, but purposeful action in pursuit. On that score, Rwanda presents a living and seminal inspiration to the continent and the world. And we understand that innovating and harnessing digital technologies, we can help transform African societies and economies. By adopting Digital Africa and unlocking the full potential of all sectors of the economy through improvements in productivity and better access to markets and financing, digital mechanisms are also there to support governments in making their services more efficient, less costly, and more accessible to all. So how have we fared so far? In our digital journey, this is where the rubber hits the road. The latest GSA May State of Mobile Internet Connectivity report shows that nearly 3/4 of the total population of the sub-Saharan Africa are not connected or benefiting from mobile internet. That's almost 1 billion people, excluding, without excusing, the large population of children. We are talking of half of the adults in sub-Saharan Africa still not connected. At MTN, based on our own reading, in as much as 90% of the people who are connected will use their phones for voice, we also note that across the continent, less than 20% of them use it combined effort every month in both voice, data on one side, fintech and digital on the other. So the digital divide is real and it is clear. These numbers are very overwhelming and humbling. So clearly, there is much work to be done by us all. Where do we start? A lot has been mentioned this morning about the usage gap, about the coverage gap, and about the connectivity gap. As we prepare for 2024, the global and regional macroeconomic backdrops look very challenging, but in there also are some of the opportunities we see within the digitalization of everything, in agri, in health, education ecosystem, government and governance, financial services, industry, and everyday life for African citizens. Though we are encouraged by the priority that many governments across Africa are already giving to promote the growth of ICT and digital economy, a lot more is needed in this area. It is clear we all have work to do, and there is a lot more we can contribute. We must close the digital gap. And indeed, we should even stop talking about it as a digital gap. It is just about bridging the gap of inhumanity. Rural-urban gap, male-female gap, the north and south gap, the haves and have-not gap. That is the real gap of inhumanity that we must bridge. At MTN, we are closing coverage gaps. We are also closing the usage gaps. And just last year, 4G alone, we brought 9 million people under coverage. 45 million people under coverage also in 4G and 3G combined. We covered 88% of the population, and we have a target by 2025 to cover 95% of the population with advanced technology. We all understand the enormous capital investment is required to expand the network. The fair share debate and push in Europe to get OTT operators to become balanced beneficiaries and contributors alike is still not settled. Africa must have a voice. That requires careful and dispassionate evaluation of the OTT's value creation and value take to inform our policy position and regulatory direction. We need to talk about that more. Now, getting to handsets, a lot has been said. In Rwanda here, we launched the Mache initiative to drive handset adoption through device financing. So people who cannot afford can take this handset and pay through mobile money over time without having to pay so much out of their meager salaries and wages. Let's now turn to digitalization of everything and transactions, which clearly digital payments is at the center of it. Very recently, you were all witnesses to the launch that MTN had with MasterCard. In this area, we are also seeking possibly to leapfrog the economy from the card system into digital payment. And we believe that digital payment also holds a key into the future of this continent. It can do a lot to grow our continent. It can do a lot to provide jobs, and it can do a lot also to help government raise revenue to invest in the hard-needed infrastructural projects. Digitalizing everything in the economy is what we need to do. And the first step is digitalizing cash. As I bring my keynote address to an end, please permit me once again, Your Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, that MTN want to partner for progress with stakeholders across the broad spectrum represented here. And today, we want to also extend that partnership door in order to deal with some of the challenges that I spoke about, and earlier speakers also touched on, that in building this Africa we all want, we must also take concrete actions to close the coverage gap, the usage gap, and the digitalization of our economies. There is no doubt there are challenges ahead, but in there are also opportunities. We must twice be as fast in digitalizing transactions, work, information, connectivity, and economies. We in Africa must collectively think, act, and digitalize our way out of poverty and to shared prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Iben. Indeed, we agree that everyone deserves the benefits of a modern, connected life. Please now join me in welcoming Darren Zhao, the President of Middle East and Africa, ZTE. Thank you.
You can hear me, right? Yeah. Morning, everyone. Pretty happy to come back here again in this beautiful city, Kigali, and sit together with all the dear colleagues. And it's my pleasure to share the insight and discussion from our side, from ZTE, regarding this topic, how to accelerate Africa's digitalization. So for me personally, I've been working in this continent for 16 years. As we can see, all those numbers my dear colleagues have shared a lot. I think because of the hard work of telecom industry's colleagues, we've already achieved a lot. Meanwhile, the whole ICT industry have already contributed more and more to both economic and GDP. But coins always have two sides, as my colleague has been mentioning. There are also still huge gap. Let's take a look at the 57 smartphone penetration, which means there are still more than 40% people cannot afford a smartphone. And also around 300 million, or probably more, are still not connected. So those are the tasks which we need to resolve. Meanwhile, during the past 1 or 2 years, we realized that power become a critical issue in some certain countries. The down of power will bring down the availability of the sites, will cause significant consequence to the operator, to the customers. So for ZT, we've been thinking how we can, as an equipment supplier, how we can help to accelerate the digitalization in Africa. For us, we, on a strategic level, we've already made sure that we will put Africa market on a higher strategy from R&D, from the product line, from manufacturing. We have been implement this 4A strategy. Number one, affordable. Affordable not only on the equipment side, but also on the terminal side, on the handset side. Of course, advanced. We will not only because of the cheap price, competitive price, we will also bring more innovative and advanced technology to this continent. Aggressive. When I mention aggressive, not only means I'm going to put more resources in the front office, which means more implementation team, more marketing, or more sales. But also from a corporate point of view, we'll keep on enhancing more and more R&D resources into Africa. Adaptive. For our business, not only partner with the operator, but also there are a lot of ICT integrator, and we need to digitalize all the vertical industry. So that's why adaptive is a must. Let's take a look at the product one by one. ZTE, as a leading technology company in telecom equipment supplying, we keep on heavily investing in R&D. Take last year as an example. We've already invested around 24% from our revenue into R&D. One of the key parts, we put it on the chip side. ZTE have a dedicated company, sub-company, will design all the chips. These radio sites, or in the boxes, most of the important chips are ZTE in-house design, which is either 7 nanometer or 14 nanometer. Some of them are 5 nanometer. Because of the high-end chipset, that enable us to have a highly integration site. Highly integrated means lower weight, means less module. Let's have a look at the number. I'm talking about now, just now I mentioned power. So according to the product we just finished in Ivory Coast, after swapping, we bring the energy cost or the energy consumption down up to 46%, which for me personally, I was also shocked. Why? Not only energy, but also 85% of the module on the tower will be reduced because of the advanced technology, and also more than 67% of the weight is reduced. All those numbers will convert, will enable all of my dear colleagues to put it into your finance books, which means lower CapEx and lower OpEx. And also on the rural side, we also have our own rural site solution, very pretty simple to implement. And we promise we have a fast deployment, especially on the swap product. A lot of my colleagues, my partners will always challenge me, Darren, that you don't have footprint in this country. We are worried to give you this project. But I think this project, which we just finished in Ivory Coast, gave a perfect answer. Within 3.5 months, we swapped more than 1,100 base stations, which is early than roughly 3 months than what we committed on the RFP. And the reason we can achieve that is just exactly as I mentioned. On a strategic level, we are going to put more, or we've already put more resources, not limited within my own region, but also globally, especially the strong support from my HQ R&D team, which is going to do the customization, facing different scenarios. So this is what we've been doing. Fixed line. Recently, I realized some of my partners are gradually introduce fixed line into Africa. I don't want to go to too much details in the technical part, but our solution, number one, we make much more lighter. So which means with one single engineer, they can just pick it, either install it on a pole or on a wall. You don't need a big team. This is number one. And easy not only means less weight, but also less complex, because all those modules has already been preset in China, in the factory. So we don't need so much experienced engineer. It's easy training. Some engineer can just set it up within 10 minutes by himself. So this one can cause the result which we want, fast delivery. Of course, we have this smart system which can help our partner to manage all those different boxes, different CPEs in the home. And also when there is a mistake, the system can smartly identify where the problem is. All those high-end technology will bring the number of labor or technician down. But of course, if in this industry, we all know that around 70 to 80% of the total cost, if you talk about the fixed line, will come from the civil part. We still working hard on this 20 part, which we are providing to make sure minimize the cost. But meanwhile, we still have to find more innovative idea to bring the other 80 parts down. In Europe, let's take Germany as an example. TCO per line for fixed line around 2,000 euro. But in China, in Asia, Southeast Asia, like some country in Indonesia, now we can bring the cost down less than $100, around $60. But here in Africa, our target is try to bring it less than $100 together with our partner, but currently we cannot. So still we are working on some pilot and still some innovative idea. Because for us, if we talk about digitalization, one of our key tasks as equipment supplier is as much as possible to bring the cost down, and power. For ZTE, we have the widest product in telecom industry. We have radio, fixed line, transmission. So we are in a better position to understand the network, to understand different equipment. So we are in a better position to provide the end-to-end power solution. Number one, to enhance the availability of different components of the network. But this is just the first step. Second step, we want the managing team of the network can see visibility of different parts of your network in terms of power consumption, So cut the long story too short, what we would like to do to enable our customer to use less watts to create more bits, to create more revenue. This is regarding the power part. Now let's come to handsets. All of my colleagues is talking about handset. For us, number one key task, we want to bring the cost down. And for ZTE, the strategy for handset for Africa is affordable premium, which means we want to bring competitive price product and also with good quality, And for me, because sometimes I push the price, but for me, I also want to make sure the price, the quality is good. So for myself, I'm using entry-level 4G handset. And today we want to do more. I mean, last year we pushed it less $40. Now we're targeting 30 or even lower, you know. And also that's for us, we will enable some of my local partners to have the ability to go for local manufacturing. Number one, lower tax. Number two, create more jobs. You know, this is what we are okay to do. And this slide is showing all different virtual application or solutions which we have. We've been deploying smart port or smart mining globally. And there's one thing I want to say. This job cannot be done by one party. So we are welcoming more and more ICT integrators to join hands with us to work together. And to narrow the gap of digitalization, that is the task cannot finish by one party. So I especially appreciate the GSMA to organize such conference. So let us discuss, set up the strategy, and work hand in hand. Hopefully, we will have a much more bright future in terms of the transformation of digitalization for Africa. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Darren. And again, thank you once more to all our distinguished speakers this morning for sharing your valuable insights on the digitalization of everything. Thank you so much for this morning. And now we just going on into the next session. I'd like to just let you know that we're about to receive our guest of honor, and I'd like to just take you through the agenda for the